Hi, welcome to my class. This is Mr. Aguilar. Today we're going to go over a couple of things. Some of it's going to be a refresher. For some people it might be new, but what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about hand grips. And probably going to have to change the zoom ratio on this for a bit. But we're going to talk about overhand hand grips versus underhand hand grips. So underhand is going to be tucked right in the palm. Usually you're going to have your forefinger right up here. Whatever way is comfortable, you just want to get a nice grip on it. And then you have your overhand grip. Now, some people like to hold it traditional, thumb, forefinger, middle finger underneath. Some people, like me, I like to use my index finger and my middle finger, and then I just rest it on here. Whatever way is comfortable is the way that works. So that's the first thing I want to get to. So again, we're talking overhand grip, and then we're talking underhand grip, and that's basically what we're looking at. We're going to be adding values, making marks, shading, all that kind of things. So the main reason I want to go over this is because we're going to make that transition from pencil to color pencil and be using the same techniques with the color pencil, but this time we're not blending just graphite. We're going to be blending multiple colors. Everything translates, so I want to make sure that we understand that what you do with a regular pencil, you can do with a color pencil. Some of the things that you also have to look at, it's the same with the pencil, is what's the quality of the material you're using. So obviously you can do stuff with cheap color pencils, but the nicer color pencils you get, the more things that you can do with them. The other thing is color pencils are way more fragile than regular pencils. So you can put a lot of pressure on a regular pencil and it won't break. But if you put a lot of pressure on a color pencil, especially the soft kinds, they'll just snap. So you also have to keep in mind how much force you're exerting onto that pencil. So let's just look at the pencil. One thing characteristic is when you're at overhand, and I'll give you a nice visual. When you're overhand, your pencil is at excuse me, sorry. Your pencil's at a much greater angle. And when you're at an underhand grip, you have a much smaller angle. So you're going to get a flatter end of that pencil. You're not going to get that sharp tip of the point. So that creates two things. One, a different surface area, so a different mark that you're going to be making from the point from the side. The other thing is the amount of pressure you're going to be putting on. You'll always add more pressure with an overhand grip than you will with an underhand grip. So let's look and see what we can do. I'm just going to make a couple of lines here so you guys can see it. And again, you're going to get some nice dark lines and dark values. Now, when I switch to underhand grip, you're going to get different types of marks. So you can see that kind of mark. If I'm doing detailed drawings, I'm going to use an overhand. If I want to shade and blend, I'm going to use an underhand because I want to be able to use that flat side of that pencil to shade. So the next thing we're going to talk about is pressure. Now, the farther back you hold your pencil, the less pressure you're going to put on it. The closer to the tip, the more pressure you're going to put on it. So I'll just make a little quick mark right here. So again, you can see that's a pretty dark value. I'm going to move back. I'm going to maintain that overhand grip. So I'm maintaining an overhand grip, but when I draw my lines, they're going to be a lot lighter. Now, if I switch to an underhand grip, if I move down and put my finger down, I will get dark values. If I just simply switch to a basic underhand grip, so I'm just holding it nice and soft out here, I'm going to get a much lighter value. Now you can see the difference in the texture, overhand versus underhand. It's important to keep this in mind because when you're working with color pencils, it's the same thing. So let's switch to color pencils. I'm just going to grab a nice red. So I'm using red. I'm going to go a little overhand and make some marks. so you guys can see that. And then I'm going to switch to an underhand grip, and I'm going to come right underneath here and do that. Okay, so you see that you have the lighter values. Here you have the darker values. And this is what I'm talking about. If you're holding it here, underhand, and you apply a lot of pressure, that tip's just going to break off. So if you're going to make a darker value and you want it to be nice and smooth, what you should do is put a nice value down underneath. I'm going to bring this down a little bit. The thing I like to do is I'll come at a different angle, and this is filling the gaps a little bit more. And then once I have that, I can come back with an overhand grip, and I can just go right on top of that. And I'll get a nice dark value that's fairly smooth. And the more time I spend on it, the smoother it'll get. You don't want to press down too hard at first to try to get a dark value. That's what most people are tempted to do. What's going to happen is you're going to get a lot of streaks, and you want to avoid streaks. So streaks are like this. It's where you have a little white coming through, or inconsistent value, dark, medium value, or even that white coming through because you're scribbling. So we want to avoid that. Let's take another color. Let's take a darker color. I'm going to use violet. So again, violet. I'll come right in here. Nice overhand grip. Get a nice dark value. I'm going to move back just a little bit. Get some lighter values in there. Okay, and then what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to switch to that underhand grip, and I'm just going to come in and put some nice values in. It's important to learn control, because when you're shading, you're going to want to add different values. So you're going to want to add dark values and light values, and you have to be able to control your values if you're going to blend. Okay, and blending, two different things. Blending means going from a dark to a light value, so creating a nice smooth gradient. But blending also means blending two colors. Now, the thing with color pencils, unlike watercolors or acrylics, those are paints, those are liquids that can mix, and they're going to mix into a solid color. You don't do that with color pencils, you layer. And whatever layer you put on top, that's going to be the predominant color. So I'm going to do, I'm just going to put some red in here. I'm going to bring it down. Now I'm going to put some violet. And I'm using that underhand grip. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add violet to this. And I'm going to blend it. I'm going to start with the bottom. And I'm going to a little bit lighter as I come in. Now I'm going to add a bit of a darker value. And I'm just blending the two. So now I have a red violet, but it's more on the violet term than it is on the red term. I'm going to come back in with red. And again, the more you layer, the better they'll blend. Come back through here. So what I'm going to do now is on this side, I'm going to put the violet down first, and then I'm going to go with the red. And again, you'll see how that red's the more dominant color because it's on the top. And I'll come back through. I'm just going to add a little bit more red. And then this will be my last layer. Let's add a little bit more violet up here. Let's bring it down just a bit. And you see, the more times you go over it, the smoother and smoother it's going to get. So now if you look at this, you're going to see more of a red violet. Here it's still a red violet, but purple or the violet's going to be the more dominant color. So let me blow this up real fast just so you guys can see that. And again, so what we're trying to do is work on blending colors. Now, if you have a nice color pencil set, you'll have a red violet, you'll have a blue violet, you'll have a yellow green, you'll have a blue green. But when you don't, and you're just using a basic set and you just have a couple of pencils, well, that's when you want to learn how to blend. So here's a nice green. I'm just gonna put this green down here. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add some blue on top of it. And that's going to give me a nice little blue-green. So let me bring this blue down so we can see. So you have the blue, you have the blue-green and the green. I'll come back in with the green a little bit more. And I'm applying more value to this. I'm going to bring that green down into here. Then I'll go back over it with just a little bit of blue. So again, you're going to get more of that blue, green, blue, and green. Let's talk about yellow and orange. So yellow and orange mixed together. Oh, looks like I broke this tip. So I'll just keep it like this. Put this down here. So there's that bright yellow. Let's bring in this orange. And then I'm just going to start bringing it in. Yellow's hard to blend with. My advice is when you make like a yellow green or yellow orange, put the orange or green down first. Because yellow is hard to blend with. It's tends to be the hardest of the clays made to use the colors. So it doesn't play well with others. Yeah, so now I got yellow, I got a yellow orange, and I got an orange. I don't know how well that camera's picking it up, so let me make it a little bit bigger area. Hopefully you guys can see that a little bit clearer. If I come back and look and see that the video is a little too dark with the lighting, I'll throw out some other lights and redo the video. What's the last thing that I want to do? Let's do a little bit of green. And this is a darker green, by the way. Depending on how this video goes, I think I will pick up a pack of cheap color pencils. Crayolas, and what I'd like to do is maybe do the video over again, or do a secondary video with a lesser pencil, just so you guys can see. And here you can see that nice yellow green, so I'm going to bring that up just so you guys can see it a little bit clearer. So you have the yellow green, right? The green, the yellow. You have the orange. You have the yellow, orange, yellow. Here you have the blue, green, and green. You have the violet. Here you have a red violet, and then you also have a different red violet. Remember, we went over how to in what order that you wanted to go into. You know, color mixing, red and blue do make violet. But again, with color pencils, it's harder to really get, because this is coming out more of a blue violet. It's harder to get the true color that you want. So the best bet, and you can see how that's coming out. That's just mixing that red and that blue. Your best bet is to get a packet that has enough color pencils to where you're not having to blend too much. But again, when we're just talking about, I only have my 6 colors, basic colors, which would be your red, yellow, and blue, and your orange, green, and violet. And then you usually have a white and a black, and then sometimes I'll have a brown. And those are your pencils that you have. So again, depending on the quality of the pencil is also going to depend on how they blend. So I'm just going to go back over here. This white. So when you add that white, again, it's going to give you more of a pastel color. And again, if you add a lighter version of the color, so let's go lighter. I'm just going to go lighter here. Now I'm going to go back over that with white too. And that's just blending, you know, a lighter shade of that blue. So you're just putting less of that blue clay down, and then you're just adding more of that white. Some colors it works really well with. The brighter colors, not so much. But your violets, your blues, your greens, and your reds, it's going to work out pretty well. Let's put a little red down here. You can see how that looks. When you're drawing, it's important to understand what medium you're using and the limitations that you have with that medium, because color pencils are going to react differently than a regular pencil versus a charcoal pencil. Every tool you use has its own characteristics. It has its own pros and it has its own cons. So it really depends on what you're going to do and how you're going to do it when you have your materials. So sometimes you just have the basics, the cheap stuff. Other times you have nicer materials and you just kind of work with what you have. And then you try to build, like, what am I going to do? Like, what type of drawing am I going to do? What type of illustration am I going to do? And you really want to think about what's going to lend itself to that medium. Like, what's going to work better with pencil? What's going to work better with watercolor? What's going to work better with acrylic? So they all have their unique characteristics, and it really just takes practice and exploration. One of the things I always recommend, practice. Practice is the only way you're going to get better. The last thing that I want to talk about, and I'm going to go back to using a regular pencil. I'm going to zoom out a bit. So I want you to be able to see. When I want to draw a straight line, I'm just going to move my body. Okay, I'm not going to be moving my wrist. I'm not going to be moving my elbow. What I'm going to be doing is from my shoulder, I'm going to lock my elbow, lock my wrist, and just work on drawing straight lines. So body mechanics is always important. It's a little bit harder to do this on a flat surface like a table. Usually you want to work with an artboard that you can prop up on the table and you can have at a 45-degree angle. That's generally the best way to draw, because now it's more natural for your body just to move. So if you can't see it on camera, it's a lot easier for you to move this way, right, than try to do it this way when it's flat. So I always recommend, if you have a drawing table or anything that you could use as a drawing table, it's really nice. You could prop it up against the kitchen table, just sit down in your chair, prop it up against a regular desk, and then, you know, just go ahead and draw. So let's look at this. So what I want to do is I want to draw straight lines. I'm going to turn my paper because I'm moving this way. I can't rotate my body to a certain extent, especially if I'm in a fixed drawing position. but I can rotate my paper, so I always like to rotate the paper. So I'm going to come here, and again, I'm just going to be moving my shoulder, moving my arm, and I just want to practice drawing straight lines. Okay, and I'm going to come up here. I'm going to do this a little lower so I can see my hand. It's easier if you're looking above this way than if you're looking up, because you lose track of everything. So I'm just going to go here and work my way down. And I just want to make sure and try to get my really straight lines. Now you might think, you know, why do you want to do this? What's the purpose of this? Well, you want to learn control. And you can see you get little wobbles, right? It's a lot harder to work on a flat surface. You can get much straighter lines if you're working upright. And again, you're going to see some of the lines are going to be better. Some of the lines going to get curved. You just, and this is when your elbow or your wrist gets involved. That's when you're going to get that curve. So it just takes practice and practice and practice. So I'm going to come a little over here. I'm going to do it a little bit over here. And you can see that the more often you do it, you're immediately going to get better. So let's look at my first couple of lines, and you can see all the nice little wobbles. You can see how my body went out of control here. But once you start practicing, it's going to get easier and easier to do. Why do you do it? Well, sometimes you don't have a ruler. Sometimes you're sketching out wherever you're at. You don't always have the supplies. And you want to be able to sketch. And again, sketching isn't meant to be perfect. We're not doing, you know, we're not drafting. We're not drawing something in 2-point or 3-point perspective and trying to have nice straight lines, perfect lines. This is strictly for being able to sketch on the fly, train your body, get yourself used to doing different things, body movements, body control with pressure. So I'd like to do a quick recap, because I started this at the beginning of the session and I want to finish it up. If I wanted to control my values, dark value, medium value, light value. Finger on top pressing down, dark value, just having the finger back, medium value, having an underhand back here, light value. So by changing your hand positions, you can create different values. I do teach a pinch method, so the harder you pinch, the darker the value you can get into, but we'll go into that recap later. I wanted to keep this video as short as possible, and again, I might just redo another video of this using the Crayola, the $2 packs of pencils, so you guys can maybe see the difference between a nicer quality Prismacolor versus a regular Crayola. And then there's whole spectrum of brands in between Crayola and Prisma. So anytime you find color pencils that are, say, a nice set's going to be around $10, $12, those are probably going to be in your medium range as far as quality. When you start getting into $24, $40, $80 for packs, understand the quality is going up, so you're able to do more things. So until next time, this is Mr. Aguilar. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you got something out of it. And we're going to be getting into color theory, so that should be fun.